Hello, this is Fear Dragon, and welcome to Breaking Out, the show about North American StarCraft 2 players. Here on this show, we take a look at up-and-coming North American talent. Each week, we check out a new player to get a feel for their personality and their playstyle. On Thursday, we interview the player to try and find out more about who they are and why you should care about them. On Friday, we watch 3 of their games as we cover their playstyle in each of the 3 matchups. Saturday, we take a look at an awesome game that they've played and relax with a little bit of fun as we recap the week and get an analysis of the games. Breaking Out will cover 8 players before it culminates into the Breakout Invitational. With a minimum prize pool of $1,000, we find out who is the most likely player to break out of the North American scene. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Hope you guys enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to Breaking Out, the show about North American StarCraft 2 players that you need to know about. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a young American Zerg player that has started making a name for himself. Representing IvD Gaming, we have the 16-year-old American Zerg player. Please give a warm welcome to IvD Phog Roberts. How are you doing today, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
It's a pleasure to have you, and I'm not going to lie, this is not the first time we've recorded this.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, last time, guys, we did have a bit of a crash, so I will try and touch upon all the topics that he, of course, Drew here talked about last time. So if I somehow randomly just seem to tap into knowledge that shouldn't be available to me, it's probably because I've already heard him answer the question before. But yeah, with that being said, really quickly talk about what Breaking Out is for anyone just tuning in. As you just saw in the video probably that played right before this, Breaking Out is a show about North American StarCraft 2 players. We have broadcasting 3 days a week. So today is the Thursday broadcast. We do an interview. Tomorrow we're going to be taking a look at Drew's games. And on Friday we're going to sit down with Drew. I keep calling him Drew, but his name is Phog also. And we're going to sit down with Phog. We're going to play some arcade games. We're going to recap the week, and we're also going to watch his awesome game of the week. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and jump right into the interview. So I have to ask you, man, how did you get your start into esports? Like, was StarCraft your first game, or did you play anything else?
So my first game was probably just like casually playing Call of Duty, Halo, that kind of stuff on the consoles. And then my cousin got me into StarCraft 2 after I had watched him play during like the midnight release of Wings of Liberty back in 2010. And I started playing StarCraft 2 casually, and then at some point I started playing it more seriously and getting more competitive about it, and that's kind of where I started in esports.
Yeah, cool. So I mean, you've been playing since around then. That's really awesome. You didn't really play too much during Brood War then, I guess?
No, I've never owned Brood War, so...
Have you played Brood War, though?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was waiting for the... I don't own Brood War, but I play it all the time.
No.
Yeah, cool. But you've been enjoying StarCraft 2. That's really awesome. And I have to ask, like, what has been your biggest achievement in StarCraft 2 up until this point?
My biggest achievement would definitely be placing top 17 at MLG Anaheim 2013, which involved me beating players like Theognis, Ben Ishiwa, and then losing to Jaedong and the SDC. I
mean, yeah, Theognis is a super solid player. Sven Ishiwa, obviously, everyone knows about the Sven Ishiwa build. And also, like, a pretty friendly guy and everything. But yeah, like...
Yeah, he's really nice guy.
You definitely have made a name for yourself through MLG Anaheim. So tell me, what was that like, the experience of being and playing at one of those big premier events?
Well, it hadn't been my first MLG ever, but it was the first one that I'd gone in like trying to play very competitively and do well at. And it was a whole new experience. It's completely different than playing at home in a comfortable environment. And it's very nerve-wracking, there's a lot of distractions going on around you, so it really tests your mental fortitude and your skill at LAN.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so you were playing against the Ognis. Do you remember anything about those games, or like any things that kind of go through your head when you're playing? I'm always kind of curious about that.
I remember those games, and I remember losing the first one, and then I clawed my way back and ended up winning 2-1, and... The first game, he beat my style straight up, which is Roach Hydra. It was on, what's it called? The one with the easy to fourth, like it's not in the map rotation anymore. Akalon Waste, that's it.
Akalon Waste.
And I lost on that map because I couldn't get a 5th base up or something like that. And then in the next 2 games, my Roach Hydra just beat his army. I don't know why, but it did. And that my last game was on Frost, and I remember like I knew I was winning, and I started getting like more and more nervous, and like my hands started to sweat. But I knew I was gonna win anyways. But it was like, don't mess up, don't mess up, don't mess up. So yeah.
Yeah, I know. Even last time that we talked about this, you had said like it felt like when you were playing outside of your kind of comfortable home environment that your stuff just doesn't work the way it's supposed to.
Like the gear that you know and is like an extension of yourself in a sense isn't what you know it to be anymore. Like you're worried that you're not even like clicking the right keys at some points. So it's a ridiculous and crazy experience.
Oh, I'm sure. You know, you also have mentioned kind of like in some of the interviews that you did, say at MLG Anaheim, that your parents, your mom actually accompanied you there to make sure you didn't, die somehow.
Yeah.
So does that mean that your parents are pretty supportive of your involvement in esports?
Yeah, they're really supportive and cool about it. As long as I do well in school and make sure I spend enough time studying, then they're fine with me spending however much time I want to, trying to improve at the game and get more notice in the scene and stream more, what have you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, based on the fact that you've been performing pretty well and been able to be fairly active in the StarCraft scene, should I assume that you're a 4.0 honors like student and everything, doing super well?
I'm not 4.0, but I take all of the toughest classes, so honors, AP, stuff like that, and I've got most A's.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine, man. You only need some A's.
There's a couple classes. Spanish, it's getting me a little bit, but that's okay.
Spanish was always a hard one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you can find some of the Spanish-speaking practice partners. Maybe like Lucifron. There's Cham. There's Major. Jim Rising.
I've talked to Jim Rising on Skype a couple times with a group of people. He's pretty funny.
He always sounded like a good guy to me. Yeah, cool. So, I guess moving more on to more current events, I want to ask, you're in high school now, so you said like you're doing pretty well. How is balancing your school with StarCraft kind of going for you?
It's definitely gotten more tricky with me being a sophomore, and the class is definitely starting to ramp up in difficulty and the amount of workload. But it's still the same, like in theory. It's just a little bit more like if you like imagine a balance, the balance has just gone a little bit more towards school and a little bit less towards StarCraft. But I don't think my play has been taking too much of a hit. Maybe just the amount of time I've been playing hasn't been as consistent as I'd like it to be, but it's still me balancing school and StarCraft is going well.
Yeah, fair enough. And do you have any like other after school activities or anything that you're kind of doing that take time away as well?
Like I do debate, but that's only half
the
year.
Okay, what type of debate? I have to ask.
It's what type is it? I don't know. Is it? I don't even know what type.
Parliamentary debate?
It's probably parliamentary debate.
Okay.
The one with the diss ads and the. I don't know.
Okay, this is gonna be me nerding out because I did a ton of debate in high school. Okay. So are the debates? Are you reading usually off of like note cards that you call evidence?
Evidence, like, yeah.
Okay. And you're just like, is it a lot of reading taglines, or are you like giving a speech almost?
Well, during the rebuttals, it's usually like a speech somewhat.
Yeah.
But during like the man, what are they called? The 8 minutes.
Affirmative, negative.
Yeah, affirmative.
1A.
1A, 2.
Half the people right now are just like, what the heck are they talking about? 1A, 2A, 3A.
But yeah, wait, Protoss, really? Hey,
yeah, Protoss. Oh god.
But yeah, I think it's that debate whatever
Okay.
it's called.
I think it's either parliamentary or Lincoln Douglas. I'm not
Both of
sure.
them ring a bell, but
But you were among great people such as Ink Control then, um,
yes.
as another debater. But yeah, awesome. So I know that like personally that a lot of debate stuff sometimes requires a lot of travel. Um, has
I'm
that?
not very good at debate. like
You're
like
still
I'm good.
sophomore. You're still sophomore.
I'm good at like theoretical, like in
Hmm.
like theoretical debate and more like abstract,
Hmm.
and not I don't know, like the confines of like strict debate
Hmm.
settings and whatnot
Hmm.
doesn't like allow any for like a lot of creativity, I'd say. And so I'm not very good at it.
All
And
right.
I'm
Yeah.
not great at public speaking either, so
Okay. Fair enough. So now, follow up question: do you feel like that kind of at all shows or is a little bit telling of your playstyle in StarCraft at all? Like your feelings toward being more of a creative kind of person?
no. I'm
No.
not creative at all in StarCraft. like I don't know, there's just like certain areas where I like to be creative and certain
Hmm.
areas where I feel comfortable. And in StarCraft I kind of just play where I'm comfortable most of the time.
I can totally feel that. I was just curious if there was any kind of parallels.
No.
Um, but okay, cool. Let's talk a little bit about your involvement in, I guess, the esports scene. What kind of difficulties have you faced trying to break out of the North American StarCraft 2 scene?
Well, breaking out into the North American scene, like especially, is has been very difficult lately because of WCS, and I believe that the only real way to get noticed at this point is to get into WCS, and so yes, you could stream a lot and uh, release replay packs, do whatever, but it's not going to give you the recognition that you really want. The only thing that's going to be able to do that is to win tournaments, to get into WCS, to really break onto the entire scene, the international scene as a whole. And so that's kind of what I'm focused on right now. And that's my next step towards breaking out.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good assessment of the situation. I know a lot of players feel similarly with how WCS is right now, and I'm kind of going to ask your thoughts more about the format for WCS this season a little bit later on. But I mean, what kind of stuff? You mentioned that there are some things that they don't necessarily make or break the difference, but it can help, I'm sure. What are some of the things like streaming and whatnot that you actually do to give yourself more exposure?
Well, when I first joined IvD, they encouraged me to stream a lot more, and that's definitely helped me get a little bit more popularity, a little bit more exposure, grow my stream, grow my following a little bit.
Hmm.
But other than that, that's basically all I've done, and just trying to be like active on ladder and active in the scene in the background, like
Hmm.
making connections with people, stuff like that.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. And I guess just kind of speaking of connections, like what kind of connections? This is almost moving more into the team aspect of everything. What kind of connections has being on IVD actually garnered you?
Well, a lot of the players in IVD have been on
Hmm.
a lot of other teams and have a lot of
Yeah.
like connections. So basically, I could go to anybody in my team if I had like a need, like I needed to talk to somebody or ask another person a question. I'm
Hmm.
sure I could find someone within my team that would be able to get me in contact with an organization or a specific player, a specific team, whatever. So
Hmm.
yeah, IVD has tons of connections within it.
Yeah, cool. And I mean, you joined IVD about 4 months ago or so, I think, or
Hmm.
yeah. So I
Well,
mean, how
around
exactly?
December.
Yeah. Okay. So around like 3 months ago. How has that been? What kind of other things outside of just, I guess, players that you can also be in touch with has that offered you?
IVD's offered me a lot of good advertising for
Hmm.
myself and just a really great can't speak support system. The management's awesome. The team is awesome. All the players are really cool, really nice, and the atmosphere is just really relaxing and fun to be in.
Hmm. So cool. And I assume that you also get like all those practice partners and everything.
Hmm.
Um, so that does actually go into another one of my questions, which would be, how much time do you actually spend, say, practicing with practice partners in like custom games versus just kind of like grinding out games on the ladder?
Hmm. Uh, Most of my time is spent on the ladder,
Hmm.
but like just yesterday, I played 7 or so games with Intense, and
Oh yeah.
we did that. Some of them were on stream, but then he got mad and turned the stream off. But that's beside the point. But
Hmm.
uh, and I'd play with Apocalypse here and there. Puck, we do some games on stream, but I don't know. Custom games are kind of hit and miss, and it's a lot on like a need basis. So if
Hmm.
somebody needs practice versus serve or my styles, they'll ask me, and I'd always be willing to help out. So, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Just kind of give us like a breakdown. Like, what is your normal day like, either on a weekday or a weekend? Um, how much time are you actually putting into practicing?
So for a weekday, my normal day is go to school and then get home, do the easy homework that doesn't really take a lot of thinking, and then maybe if I'm lucky, get to play StarCraft for 2 hours or so,
Hmm.
and then do the rest of my homework that takes more thinking, and then go to sleep. And then on the weekends, I wake up whenever my body decides that it wants me to wake up, and usually I'll play StarCraft and watch tournaments, do
Hmm.
things like that. You know.
Yeah, cool. So it sounds like most of your kind of StarCraft stuff gets done on the weekends. For the majority of the week, you sound pretty busy with like school, which I mean, understandably, that is
Mhm.
in a sense like your profession right now,
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
a student. So, do you feel like it's hard to compete with a lot of these other top North American players, a lot of these Koreans who are really just investing their all into StarCraft right now?
Uh, it is. It does put me at a disadvantage with the people that do this full time,
Hmm.
but I don't want to use that as like a reason for me not to do well, because I know that there are a lot of really good players that are in the same situation as me that do school
Hmm.
and work and do other things to support themselves while they play StarCraft, such as Suppy, Xenocider is another one. I think even Saravati, he goes to
Yeah,
school, right?
yeah, he
So,
does.
like, most people in the scene are in the same position as me, and so
Hmm.
yeah, it puts me at a disadvantage because I don't get to practice as much as them, but I still think that I have the ability, with the amount of practice that I do right now, to
Hmm.
win against those players.
Yeah, that's a good positive attitude to have, and I guess it's all about time efficiency, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So, I mean, let's kind of move on to I guess what a lot of players consider the fun part of the interview. So, we're gonna play a hypothetical situation. Have you ever played World of Warcraft? Any RPG
Yes.
games? Have you
Yeah.
played Dungeons and Dragons before ever?
No.
Oh man, I highly recommend you use it. Okay, so we're gonna be playing on a World of Warcraft RP server, right? So a role play server.
Okay.
Okay. So get into your mood. Close your eyes. Like imagine. Okay. So there's this man, all right? His name happens to be Dustin Browder. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Close your eyes. Close your eyes. So his name happens to be Dustin Browder, all right? And he's in a marathon. And he's running toward the end, okay? You just imagine this guy darting toward the end. He's obviously very fit, he's very awesome, he's very aerodynamic without too much hair on the top. And suddenly, there's a rock that just appears out of nowhere like a Dark Templar. And Dustin Browder trips over it. And he's unable to perform his duties at Activision Blizzard. Now, open your eyes, Phog, Drew Roberts. You are now the head of Activision Blizzard. You are taking not David Kim, Justin Browder's spot, and you now have the opportunity to change whatever you want about how Blizzard operates, whether it be the balance of the game, whether it be the way that WCS is run, like anything at Blizzard. What do you decide to do?
Okay. When it comes to balance, I take the mothership core and either make it a full-on defensive unit or a full-on offensive unit. So that means either I'd remove the uh, Nexus Cannon ability and maybe add another offensive utility spell while also taking out the recall, or I'd take out everything except for the recall and the Nexus cannon, and then add another defensive utility spell, so that the Protoss player is forced to make a decision between offensive and defensive with their mothership core, um, which will then, I think, make a lot of the issues in the game not as apparent. And then in terms of like how like Activision Blizzard runs, I definitely change WCS just a little bit more. Maybe like just spread out the money more evenly. Like I know they keep doing that, but the rich get richer in the current system, and the lower end of the scene is really where everything's kind of like dying off and getting worse. And so that's where I think they need to put a lot of their resources into, because that's where you're going to develop the scene. It's not from the top down, but it's from the bottom up.
So when you talk about, say, like the bottom end of the scene, are you talking about like the Challenger League stuff, or are you talking about people who haven't qualified for Challenger League?
The people who say make it into Challenger, but then will drop out, they don't get into Premier, and the people that are still trying to get into Challenger. That's kind of where the bottom end of the scene is.
Okay, yeah. Do you have? Obviously, this is a very loaded question. Is like, I think you'll agree with me. It's not an easy like solution or like some obvious answer, right? Do you have any ideas of what kind of stuff that you would like to see to help kind of garner more support? Is it just distributing more money to the people who make it into the bottom round of Challenger League?
Yeah, like there should be more money in Challenger itself, and then I don't know, I'd maybe even make like a more structured system in terms of like qualifying into Challenger. So like maybe there's like something that goes along parallel to Challenger that isn't really televised or anything like that, but that gives structure to the amateur scene, and maybe even just gives out a little bit of money here and there, because everything helps.
I see what you're saying, and I like what you're saying. It's almost kind of like getting people who are not able to qualify for Challenger League something to still do.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying? Okay.
Because right now it's just like every 3 months qualifier. If you don't make it, well, better luck.
Yeah.
In 3 months, go do something else with your life.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I've actually heard a couple of players complain about that, where it's just like, if you don't make it into Challenger League, like, there's nothing to do for 3 months. There's not a lot of tournaments unless you're like traveling out, which is already hard to do if you're like an up and coming player, right? Unless you're like able to travel out to a lot of events. And I know even in like North America, there's not even that many events really being run that you could travel out to. There's maybe like a few like LAN ETS and stuff that's going on right now.
And there's like the only reason we're about to have one is because MLG decided to bring it back. So
yeah. So I guess that's actually a really good point. But yeah, let's kind of backtrack also a little bit to what you were saying earlier about the mothership core. So I mean, really don't seem to like the mothership core.
It's not that I don't like it. I just think that it's too useful. You can use it in the death ball. You can use it to defend drops, defend counterattacks. It's just, you can like save whole armies from getting killed. Like it's a really good unit, and I give props to David Kim for making a really not balanced great unit for Protoss, but they need to dial it back just a little bit. Just a little bit. Yeah. It can't be useful in every situation.
So I have to ask, what do you think about like the nerfs that are said to be coming in with the vision range? Do you think that's going to solve anything or help out with any of the problems, or it's just not enough?
What I assumed they were targeting with that change was blink.
The blink stalker, yeah.
And I'm not really sure the vision radius of an observer, but I'm sure it's around 9, 8, probably in that area. And I just, like, the mothership core doesn't need to really see that far for a blink stalker all-in. All it needs to see is the high ground and not be able to get taken out. And they'll be able to do that from 9 range. So, I mean, theoretically, they'll maybe not see an army that's there, and they might make a stupid blink into an army, but any good Protoss will be careful about making their blinks anyways. So.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. So let's kind of move on to, I guess, the next topic, which is your playstyle in each of the three different matchups. So, I mean, you are a up-and-coming Zerg player. Could you kind of describe your playstyle for us? How do you think you play? Because you're saying you don't feel like you're creative in StarCraft, but what are you good at in it?
I'm very macro oriented. I think my mechanics are really good, and I take pride in my mechanics, if I do say so myself. But like, I want to get up to 3 bases. I want to get like max saturation, full economy, and then specifically in each matchup, like ZVZ, I enjoy going mutas, but ZVZ, I'm not very good at ZVZ. I don't really know what I'm doing. But in ZVT, I like doing Roach Hydra, which is a bit unorthodox, but still kind of plays into my style of macro-oriented focus on, my army beating his straight up. And then in ZVP, I also like to do Roach Hydra, maybe throw in some Infestors, Swarm Hosts here and there, but kind of very basic standard armies is my style.
Yeah, so a couple of things I want to ask you about there. One thing that you said was like ZVZ, kind of jokingly said like, I really don't know what I'm doing there. Do you feel like that has anything to do with maybe, do you have a lot of really strong Terran and Protoss partners on IvD? And correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, Terran-wise, you have like Apocalypse, you have like Rough, you have Intense, you have all these great practice partners. Protoss players, I mean, you have Puck, like it's Puck. You also have Arium. Zerg players, I think there aren't nearly as many like really high-level Zerg players in IvD, are there?
There's Zerg Zing Zing.
Zerg Zing. Oh, okay,
he's
yeah.
very good.
Well, he's really good.
And Gamja, who's kind of like a bit of an unknown Korean player, but we don't really interact with him that much because of the language barrier and the time difference. But there's not as many Zerg practice partners, but I don't think it's that. I don't think it's because I don't have enough practice in ZVZ. I get a ton of practice with ZVZ on ladder, but I just don't. I'm really bad against all ends, and I always find a way to lose games that I have won and stuff like that. I don't know. I just feel uneasy playing ZVZ at the moment.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a very volatile matchup, and I can understand if you are normally depending on your mechanics to get to the late game, that can be sometimes a little bit frustrating. Part of the reason why I will probably never play Zerg. But
that's definitely difficult.
Yeah, cool. And the other thing I wanted to ask about, I'm actually just forgetting now. So we're just gonna go ahead and move on. Oh yeah. So what are there any kind of things that you're like working on right now to try and improve?
Well, in ZVT, I'm trying to develop my Ling Bane Ling Muta play, which is actually what I was practicing with Intense last night. Because I want to be able to kind of have 2 really good strategies that I can do in ZVT and be able to make my opponents play a guessing game versus me about what I'm going to do and be able to mask my play better so that they can't just meta Roach Hydra on me. And so that's kind of, I'm trying to diversify my styles and my strategies a bit more in my play right now.
Okay, cool. And another thing is that you mentioned like you practice with Intense a little bit, you practice with a couple other players. Do you consider yourself to have any sort of rivals, either friendly or maybe less friendly?
Rivals. No, I don't think I have any rivals. Maybe Arium, just because we've been playing each other quite a bit lately on ladder, and we played in the sub wars between Rifkin and Rotterdam, and I beat him.
Oh man,
it was really fun, and funny. But we've been playing each other a lot. But I'm always like on a stream and in Skype. Like today, I was on a stream, so like we're not like we
friendly
don't have
rivals.
we don't have any animosity towards each other. We just like competitively are maybe rivals a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually always just enjoy hearing like when people are like friendly competitive with each other because I mean only garners better competition, so and
Mm.
gets people to improve faster. So cool. I guess we're kind of gonna move on to the final part of the interview. It's a pretty quick interview, honestly, but I want to ask a little bit more about your future and your kind of your expectations in StarCraft. So I mean, what do you want to get out of StarCraft? What's your ultimate goal? Is it you want to get into Premier League? You want to win a GSL? You want to take over MLG and take Sundance's place? Like, what's your goal in StarCraft?
Huh. I don't know. I think that my goal would be that I was recognized by everybody in the scene for my play in some way, shape, or form. Maybe getting far in a tournament and showing that I'm a good player. Maybe even winning a tournament one day if I am lucky enough to do that. But basically, like, I don't want this time to maybe go to waste. I want something to come out of it, and recognition would probably be one of the more possible things to come out of it.
Mhm. And the next question I have after that is, what are you willing to do to try and get that recognition? Are you willing to go full time if it ever came to that? Like maybe take time off of high school, or would you maybe be willing to sacrifice anything else? I'm just kind of curious. Like,
Sure.
where does your ambition sort of lie in this?
I would never take time off of high school, but if I was in the
I'm gonna give you a
position,
big thumbs up on not taking time off of high school. By the way.
if I was in the position where after high school I would have a solid financial standing within a team,
Hmm.
and through maybe my stream or something like that, and I've been having good success in tournaments internationally by that time,
Hmm.
then maybe I'd take a gap year, and if that went well, then maybe I'd do it full time. But I don't know. That's so far off and so far
Yeah.
away in terms of my skill and play level. So I don't even know what I'd do in that scenario.
Yeah. 2.5 years in esports time.
Yeah,
That's like 7 lifetimes or something.
that's like 2 Call of Duty games right there. So
Oh man. All right. Well, I also did want to ask, like, you have obviously beaten some really, really well-known and great players. You had an amazing performance at MLG Anaheim. You have honestly, I think your name has started to spread around a little bit. But still, you are a bit of an unknown player. Like, why do you think that is?
I think it just kind of comes down to how the scene is right now. It's
Mhm.
very focused towards the top and not towards the amateur scene. The the amateur scene isn't where StarCraft is thriving. It's where it's sort of dying right now.
Mhm.
And the top side of the scene is still doing pretty well. And that's where all the tournaments are focused. There really isn't like Playhims out of the scene. Zotac NA doesn't even
Mhm.
go on anymore. Like, so where do I end up making my name? Right now, it's in the Demos Esports Team League and Shoutcraft, the Team League coming up.
Mhm.
So I'm glad team leagues are popping back up, but it's still not comparable to the exposure that I'd get in WCS or making a run and getting on main stage at MLG
Mhm.
type stuff.
Yeah, I'm actually a little bit more curious about your thoughts. You bring up a really good topic of team leagues, and you're saying like it gives you some exposure, so it's nice that they pop up.
Hmm.
Do you think that they still have a place? Like, would you rather instead of having these kind of team leagues, have more regular leagues that just showcase individual players?
That's a tough question. I guess the individual leagues give you more of an opportunity to get better exposure,
Mm-hmm.
but excuse me, sorry.
Yeah.
The team leagues kind of give you that, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like
Breadth of his exposure. Yeah.
consistent exposure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there's absolutely a place in them. And I think, in the esports market, that's why they're coming back up. You've got Demos. You
Mm-hmm.
have there's Pathfinder,
Mm-hmm.
Shoutcraft. Acer Team Story Cup Season 3, I believe, is going to be happening
Yeah,
soon.
Pro
Two,
League.
Pro League. The
Yeah,
only one or two, I guess, that went down are GSTL and IPTL, but IPTL is kind of exterior forces that work there.
yeah.
So I think that they definitely have a place, and that's why they're starting to kick back up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. But I mean, is there anything else that you find you can really participate in beyond the team leagues, like qualifiers and stuff? How do you feel about those for exposure? Like I know, for example, Red Bull had a couple of events and stuff. There's like the Dream Hacks, which I know are obviously really far out there for you, but if you ever manage to qualify, like,
Hmm. Um, the qualifiers aren't great exposure at all,
mm-hmm,
unless you get lucky enough to be the person that the casters decide to follow through the tournament.
mm-hmm,
Um, and if you don't and you don't win, there's, I don't know, there is zero exposure. You're forgotten. Even if you beat a couple good players, if you don't make it to the quarterfinals or semifinals, your name's not even going to pop up.
mm-hmm.
And there really is no like 1v1 tournaments anymore to play in, just like online dailies or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the only other thing that I want to ask about is the Gopher SC2 Cups and like the Zotac Cups and stuff. They don't happen on North America anymore, but they happen on EU. Have you ever considered entering into those? Or is
I
like the
have
lag really bad?
I have the lag's not great, and I don't know exactly why I don't play in them,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe it was like this one time I tried to play on it and I lost first round, and since then I just decided that I don't like the EU server for some odd reason. But I'm sure I wouldn't have very much success playing on EU server from
Mm-hmm.
NA on online cups at all.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. But with that being said, I'm going to move on to the final questions. The question I always ask every person that comes on a breaking out, it's can be a little bit of a difficult one. It's just answer to the best of your abilities. Where would you like to see yourself in about 2 years, ideally? So this is actually especially hard for you because in about 2 to 2.5 years, you're gonna be graduating from high
I'd
school.
like to be a senior,
Yeah,
yes.
like to have not failed out of school yet. Um, so yeah, I mean, like, where exactly do you want ideally see yourself at that point?
um, Ideally, I'd like to see myself traveling in the international esports scene, going to the IEMs around the world, the Dream Hacks,
Hmm.
um, being able to go to all of the tournaments that I'd like to and can qualify for, because at that point I'd like I guess my stock, um, my value
Hmm.
is good enough for IVD or whatever team I'm on then, that they feel that they want me to be representing their brand, their team at these events, and that would give me the best chance to, win tournaments and make a name for myself and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's pretty admirable, and honestly, I think that may even just tie into kind of like what your goals in StarCraft kind of become.
Hmm.
Um, but that is actually going to be the final question. So, with that being said, Fog, thank you so much for coming on. It has been an absolute delight to have you on for the interview. I'm really looking forward to casting your games and seeing what they are like. But we are actually going to see more of you in the Fun Day episode. So, until then, where can people catch you at? And I'll note that I have all these links that he is about to spurt out posted in the chat of twitch.tv/FearDragon64 if you're watching this live, and youtube.com/FearDragon64 if you're watching it there. Links just below the video. So, where can people catch you at, man?
They can find me on Twitter at FogSC2 and on Twitch at Fog or /FogSC2. So that's pretty easy. They're both the same. And you can also check out my team, IvDgaming.com, and all of our awesome sponsors. I'd like to send a special shout out to CM Storm, MSI, and Notvert Technic, I believe is how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, pretty sure.
pretty sure.
But guys, with that being said, we are pretty much wrapped up. So my name is Fear Dragon. This has been Breaking Out, the show about North American StarCraft 2 players that you honestly need to know more about, because players like Phog are working really hard and honestly play really freaking well. So take note of them. And well, hopefully you guys will tune in tomorrow, learn more about how his actual gameplay is, and you can kind of judge it for yourself. So with that being said, guys, please consider following the channel over here on twitch.tv/FearDragon64, youtube.com/FearDragon64. I have the VODs up pretty much immediately after the episodes air. And the last note is actually the Breakout Invitational is actually the culmination of Breaking Out. We do 8 weeks, so we have 8 different players. At the very end, we have an invitational for all those 8 players, and you can actually donate to increase the prize pool. We distribute it fairly evenly. Everyone, even including last place, will get a little bit of a portion of the winnings. So you can donate directly to the prize pool by clicking on that little Breaking Out image, the Breakout Invitational image, down below the stream on twitch.tv/FearDragon64. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. That is going to be it. Big thank you also to Cybert, who did the video intro, as well as Minnie Mouse GG. But I hope to see you all tomorrow. Take care.